We are going to be talking about 75 hard today. I'm not sure what's harder. Managing the patience level required for the internet in Chatham, Kent, Ontario, or doing 75 hard. But I am here, and I hope that with the win at the level that it is, that you are able to watch the stream, because I think it's a really important conversation that we're going to be having today. And I am on day 74 of 75 for this challenge called 75 Hard. And as I wrap up, and I understand this is a little premature, I still have to do, 3 more workouts and another day and a half of following the diet and everything that comes along with it. And I will explain it to you. But I just thought, well, the momentum is here. Well, I'm a little bit giddy that I am here at number 74, that I wanted to share with you some of the lessons, the personal development lessons that I think have come out of this for me, and some others who I know who have gone through the 75 journey, some of them successfully, some of them not. But the thing is that if you do one day of 75 hard, you're further ahead than if you didn't do any days. So I would love to hear from you in the chat box if you have in fact ever done 75 hard, or if you've even heard of it. And I'll tell you a little bit about it, and then we'll get into the lessons. So here's what 75 hard is. For 75 days, you have to, or you choose to, you commit to work out 2 times for the day, and one of them has to be outside, and they're 45 minutes each. You have to follow a diet. Now, it can be any diet of your choosing. For me, I chose no dairy, whole foods. I put a few very specific stipulations in advance before I even started. So there was that. Then no alcohol, no junk food, no cheat meals. So whatever you choose, like, you're all in. That's what you need to do. And what else? You have to drink 4 liters of water a day. And then you need to take a progress photo each and every day. Now, here's the clincher. If you miss one element on the list on any day in the 75 days, you have to start back at day 1. So knock on wood, I will survive today and tomorrow, and I will be able to do this. Now, you may be thinking, why would somebody do this? And I think a lot of people start off doing it because I've been a part of a Facebook group and just different conversations. A lot of people do it as a diet. And the thing is, it's not meant to be a weight loss plan, although the sidebar of it is that you may end up, in fact, losing weight. However, that's not the point. The real point is mental toughness. Now, if you know me, you know that I'm not a fan of mental toughness. I feel like it just, helps feed this sensation of beating up on ourselves and of, being like, if we're not doing something right or at 100%, then all of a sudden, we're a loser and we're not doing it. And I just don't I don't want an internal fight in my life. I've had enough of those fights and I have overcome that. So I call it mental discipline. And the idea here is, we want to be able to be realistic about our thoughts, push ourselves when we need to, have grace for ourselves when we need to. That's my interpretation of mental discipline. Now, the reason I chose to do a mental toughness challenge is because as I've been on this journey over the course of several years, but specifically in the last 6 to 8 months, where I've really been, reading a ton about, and that's the other thing on the plan. You have to read 10 pages of self-development every day. So that's part of the thing too. So what, I've been on this journey. So it was a very natural progression for me to go in and do this, because 2 years ago, when I saw somebody doing this, I was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Like, why are you pushing yourself that hard? Give yourself some grace. But I wanted to get to a point where I felt like I'm not controlled by different ideas, if I have an idea that I want to nap, right? And I don't really need a nap. See, this is the thing. You gotta listen to your body, right? And I have pain, so I can't push too hard and then have it backfire. But I wanted to know that I could have a thought, and if there was a better option for me, choose the better option. I don't want to be controlled by urges, right? I don't know if that makes, I'm sure that does make sense. Actually, I don't even know. I have to check in on that. I just wanted to know I could do it. If I'm honest, I want it. Like, I mean, here I am preaching all this stuff, like, your personal development, and I'm doing these lift ups and I'm doing all this work. I just wanted to know, like, am I strong enough as a person? Am I disciplined enough? That's the key piece. Am I disciplined enough to follow through on something? Okay. So that's why I did it. And the bonus is I'm stronger, I'm healthier, I'm more energetic. I mean, there's a few factors that are probably going into that, but I definitely think it's been a very good choice. Now, I wouldn't recommend it for everybody, but that will come out in these lessons. So number one, who you were yesterday is not who you need to be today. So for me, I have done challenges before. I have made lists of books that I was going to read. Speaking of which, here we are. This list of my book reading list, right, that I started. Now it's slowing down because I've just been reading a lot. But I've started things like this where I've said I'm going to do that and then forgotten that I was started. And I don't know. I think I know why that happens, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I feel like getting through 75 days of doing a challenge like this that was so intense is something, like I've already said, 2 years ago, I never could have done. I wouldn't have had the self-discipline. I wouldn't have had the self-awareness. I wouldn't have had the drive. But if I would have gone into this through the lens of thinking of my past, I would not have done it. I would not have succeeded. Because I would have had this, and I think this happens so often for people where they think who they are is something from their past. And in actual fact, our past is an indicator or a lesson learned, or it could be something we're going to repeat, but it doesn't mean we absolutely have to. And so that for me is just really something that I'm reminded of, that we can be who we want to be today, no matter if we failed in the past. Right. And a lot of these books that I'm reading are about mindset and failure is okay. And how are you learning from it? And what's the next step and all of that. So to me, that's a big deal. Now, second lesson, when I made the commitment, and this I knew a long time ago, but this has really, really been foundational for how I made this work, is never ask if, ask when. So when I look at my schedule every day, it's not, am I going to do 2 workouts that are 45 minutes each and one of them needs to go outside? It's, what time am I going to do the outdoor workout? And what time am I going to do the indoor workout? And what time am I going to read? Right. And the other thing is, like, you want to be setting yourself up for success. So the first thing I do every morning is do the picture. And it's so funny because a lot of times what happens is people will forget, or they'll lose on the 75 hard. Not lose. We're not going to use that word. They will have to start over because they forgot to read 10 pages or they forgot to take a photo. So I get that done right first thing in the morning, get out of the way. I measure out my 4 liters of water, and all day long, I'm just pouring it. And when the jugs are done, I'm done my water. I tend to drink even more, but that's part of it. So it's all this mentality of not when, or not if, but when. And how can you set yourself up for success by putting things into your calendar and making them really, really easy so that you don't forget them and you can incorporate them. The third piece, which would tie into that, is to have the confidence that there is always time. There's always time. People are like, how do you work out for 2 45-minute sessions a day? Well, I just do. And the thing is that, like, how would you have time for that? Well, you make the time. And I know that sounds so cliche, but here's the thing. You don't have a time problem. You have a productivity problem. You have a priority problem. You have a commitment problem, but you do not have a time problem. You probably have a capacity gap issue. I mean, this is my bailiwick, right? This is my work. Like, because I do everything I teach in here and live by this perspective, the truth of the matter is I have the time, right? I have the ability to make those decisions. Hold on, there we go. We're going to get rid of that. Okay. So I'm doing this because I know that it works, right? And so you do have the time, but if you're not able to make the time, there's probably something going on with your capacity and your day-to-day and how you're using it. Productivity could be, like I've already said, so I don't need to repeat that. In fairness, I will also say this. At first, it really made an adjustment because that hour and a half plus time to get to the gym or to the boot camp or outside, like dressed for outdoors or, whatever, that time needs to come from somewhere. So basically it's about 2 hours a day, maybe 2.5 hours a day that has been allotted to 75 hard. So where did that come from? Well, it didn't really come from my sleep because I need the sleep. It did initially come from maybe some R&R time, right? Like where I might be watching a movie at night or something like that. I'd be going to the gym instead. Or it really came from my social media posting. So social media is something I do in addition to serving my clients and prepping for the speeches and, all of that work, the sales efforts, etc. And I noticed that when I first started, there was a big dip in my social media. So I had to strategize that, okay, how can I do both? Right. And so we want to look very objectively at our time and our capacity issue so that we can actually figure out how do we integrate it. So as much as I say there is time, you also have to recognize that it's coming from somewhere. And so often in our lives, it's coming from somewhere that's not going to be missed. So, am I really that concerned that I didn't get a couple, extra W Network movies in? Probably not. Right? Still plenty of time for that kind of thing. All right, moving on. Number 4. Ooh, this is good. Feelings are less important than your commitment. Now, I'm all about the feels. You know that. Gotta feel the feels. I'm totally cool and on board with that. However, if we have the choice, there's a very good chance we may not feel like doing something. We may not feel like on the picture that is associated with the thumbnail for this video, that was a night when I hadn't worked out and it was like 10 o'clock or something at night. And I'm like, oh my God, I still have to do my second workout. And it might've been 9:30, I forget. And I was like, okay, let's do this. So I got in my bedroom and I put on my headset and got out my kettlebells and everything else, right? And did like a really intense workout. I think I did some dancing and in between sets and I was sweating to the oldies. Actually, I wasn't. I was just sweating and working out. But the thing is, I didn't feel like it. And the funny thing is with exercise, and I've heard this before, but I didn't ever really truly believe it, but it'll generally make you feel more energetic and make you feel better. So if you're kind of in a mood, exercise is a really great way to ramp up. So that was it. The other thing is that often I would have feelings in the other direction. So I feel like ice cream right now. I feel like cheese. I feel like nachos or pizza, right? Well, it's really interesting when you've made a commitment to not have those things, how you can feel the feels, recognize the feels, and be like, okay, yeah, that's a craving. Interesting, good. There you are, craving, not fight it, not anything, but also not act on it. And this is where the self-discipline comes in, right? Like, how can I feel like I want something? How can I think that I want something? And because I've made a commitment for something else, choose not to do it. That's the really cool piece of the puzzle. And that is probably the thing that with 75 hard feels so incredibly satisfying about doing it. Yeah. Because it's like when you push through that craving. For example, one of my clients, team at Canada Life. Hi, Canada Life. You're amazing. You guys sent me a beautiful gift basket of chocolates and like some of my favorites, right? Like salted caramel and this kind of stuff. Oh my gosh, what day was I on? Let's see. we would have, anyway, it doesn't matter. I was probably on about day 10 of 75 hard. And of course, because no cheat meals, no junk food, I couldn't eat any of it. So I put it up in the cupboard. It has been sitting there the entire time. I have never had a box of chocolates live in my house close to me for 75 days ever. Like, we'd be lucky if they last 75 minutes before this challenge. And so I'm super excited about getting to have some of those. And, even though like you kind of get out of the habit of wanting the sugar, so I might have one or two and then sort of keep them out till Christmas or whatever. But the satisfaction of knowing that despite wanting to eat those, I chose not to is really, really cool. And so I'm thinking in the future, like leaning into that, right? Like not every craving needs to be satisfied. There you go. All right, let's keep going. By the way, any questions or thoughts or anything, you just go right in that chat box. I will pull your message up there. Yeah. And by the way, this is going to be the only live this week because unless I finish that other book, we're going to change the schedule. But anyhow, sorry, these are just fucking up. I got new glasses coming. I promise they're coming. I keep having to do this. I was in a few podcasts and they just go whoosh. I don't know what it is. Well, and part of it is like, I had to work out this afternoon for one of my outdoors. And so you get all like, like I think my metabolism is higher. So I'm like more like heat, right? I guess that causes foggy windows on our glasses. Probably didn't need to bring it up. Anyway. Okay. Number 5, future pacing versus present moment. Oh, this was such an incredible realization because I'm all about being in the present moment, right? Like I love it. It's great. And pre 75 hard, if you would have asked me, I would have said, oh yeah, I'm a very present person. No, I'm not at the level that I want to be or need to be. And 75 hard just magnified that for me. And what I mean by that is I'm very good at letting go of the past. Okay. Processing it. I did a lot of work for that. So I'm not attached to the past. And that's great. Thank goodness. But I am very much a future pacer, meaning like, what time is it? How much longer do I have till I'm done? I'd be halfway through a workout and I'd be like, oh, I want to check off the workout. Or I want to check it off in the app that I'm doing it. And it's like, no. You don't get to check it off until 46 minutes. Then you can check it off. Not until. So that's something to consider. That timer piece. Now, where timing is really good and understanding how many times is like if I'm in a boot camp and, we have to go for a minute on a really heavy weight or some sort of exercise that is really intense, is I love seeing, okay, 10 seconds to go. I can do anything for 10 seconds, right? So it's really motivational. But this future pacing, if we think of our lives, like we're trying to predict the future, right? When are we going to get there? When are we going to get there? Instead of just like totally embracing and enjoying the ride. And again, sounds really cliche, but I think it was one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle that was highlighted for me in the 75 hard challenge. Now, I think, so how am I combating that? Like I'm recognizing it for sure, bringing it to the forefront in terms of, oh, look at me. I really want to jump ahead and skip this part of the journey and just get to the finish line. And so by recognizing it and articulating it in my mind or even out loud, whatever, it's actually been really helpful in bringing me back to the present moment. Right? Like I think sometimes we try to deny that we're doing that. And I think that's what I was always doing before. And so anyway, for me, that's been a really huge piece of the puzzle. All right. So next is, this was even bigger piece of the puzzle, is fall in love with the mundane. Because when you work out twice a day for 45 minutes, like there are only so many workouts. Now, like I'm big on rotating them, and I have different boot camps that I do and different like I'll go walking. And oh, by the way, you want to know, like, because sometimes I go walk my dog, right? 45 minutes. Perfect. But he's a bit of a slowpoke. So what I do is I will either one of two. I will either take hand weights And I will do 45 minutes of 1 minute, sort of 45-second on, 15-second off, or 55-second on and 5 seconds off, and then switch hands. And I'll do like walking with a hand weight, right? So that's a really cool thing because it intensifies the walk. And then, and the other way I'll do it is I will actually wear a band, one of those elastic bands. It's in my room. That goes around your legs to get some traction, and then do squats and lunges and leg lifts and things like that the whole way down the path. So that was really helpful. But even doing all of that, right? Changing it up, going into Blair's boot camp in Chatham, going to Postma's gym in Blenheim, going to, my front deck, and I have like 40 different, routines. Like, for example, like here was one I did today. There's no squat booty, the metabolism boost. Now I'm reading a book on, what is it called? It's called 11 Rings, The Soul of Success. And it's by Phil Jackson. And Phil is talking a lot about how in the NBA, it's so mundane. Like, you think it's all glamorous because you're like this big superstar and everything. But at the end of the day, you're dribbling the ball, you're shooting the hoops, you're practicing, you're putting them in, sometimes thousands of times per day. And each of us, like the things that really make the foundation of our life effective are often the mundane. So it's the, like you got to brush your teeth, you got to flush your teeth, you've got to, clean your clothes, you've got to cook dinner, clean the dishes. Like, it's all of those different foundational pieces that really are the mundane, but the crux of our lives, right? And with spurts of really exciting things that happen. And so for quite some time, I really had to play along with that, where I would, be like, okay, I'm really bored. Like, I really don't feel like doing this again, going up the sidewalk one more time. And so finding ways by coming back in the present moment and just, looking at the water and enjoying the beauty around me and nature, or, just going into how does that feel in my body, like literally the mechanics of it. So, if you're doing another squat, there comes a point where squats get boring, right? Which is why I have the no squat booty workout that I have found. And, but like actually thinking and feeling each of the muscles engaging, like that's the kind of thing that really helped me get over a lot of the mundane. And so that was it. So fall in love with the mundane. So there you go. Who you were yesterday is not who you need to be today. When, not if. There is time, but it's also got to come from something. So make decisions and be strategic about it. Then feelings are less important than the commitment you've made. So that was cool. Future proofing, or future pacing versus present moment. Always bring yourself back to the present moment and enjoy the journey as much as you do the outcome. And then, I haven't done the last one. And then fall in love with the mundane. And then the very last one is here. Compete against yourself. At the end of the day, we live in a very competitive world out there. And even like on Saturday at the boot camp, one of the things he did, or the instructor, was he's like, okay, here are our 4 exercises. And I have a number of these I need you to be able to do within a minute. And so we're going to do the first minute, and you've got to like push yourself, and hopefully you reach that number that I have in mind. And so I really am not good at doing push-ups. Like, I'm still don't have the strength, even though I'm much stronger. It's not something I can do, but I can do like, all the other things that he had us doing were no problem. And so I felt myself kind of looking over and going like, am I on track? Like, and then I was horrified by how poorly I was doing on the push-ups because I could see the person beside me going up and down and up and down and up and down. And I'm like, that's not me. That's not me. But it was interesting because then he said, compete against yourself. And I'm like, you're so right. Because so in life, like even as a speaker, like I'm looking at other people and looking at, how full is their calendar and, why are they getting that gig and I'm not getting that gig and, all those sorts of things. And none of it does any good for us. It doesn't help us push through and become our best. Ultimately, in that exercise, what he had us do was the number you had to hit in the second round was a minimum of one more of the number that you hit in the first round. So it was a competition against yourself. It wasn't for anybody else. We never saw anybody else's numbers. And what was really interesting is when he said to do that, I was like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted. Like I left it all because I thought we were competing against the room, right? So I left it all on the table in the first round. And so when he said you have to do it again, I was like, oh gosh. Okay, well, my goal in my mind, I said, I'm going to get at least half of the numbers. And he actually must have been reading my mind because he said, now some of you are already thinking that you can't do a second round and get more, but I believe you can. And that's all a mindset. And ultimately, I ended up doing, I think, 4 or 5 more reps per minute on everything except for the push-ups, where I actually ended up doing, I think, like 2 more or something. Yeah. I won't even tell you my number. So that is a huge piece because in business, people are always competing and it's just not helpful. Like it doesn't achieve anything of value to be looking and comparing yourself to someone else. And especially in 75 hard, if it's something that you're thinking about doing, I encourage you to do it. I think the reason I was able to do it in one fell swoop was because it was a natural progression of, working out and already eating healthy and drinking 4 liters of water a day isn't really a big deal for me. So it was like adding one workout to my day, right? It was, I was already reading, but it was being sure I read. Because often I think the way I would read before was I would read a whole bunch for like a day or 2 days, and then I would take a couple days off, and then I would like read more. And so doing that consistently was probably a big deal as well. So anyway, that is a thing. But I think if you're considering it, definitely look at it as an opportunity for yourself to really push yourself and hone in on that mental discipline. Because if you can do something for 75 days, a lot of people will say to me, well, okay, let me finish that thought. If you can do this for 75 days, what else can you do? It's like that second minute of each of those exercises that the boot camp challenges to, right? Our mindset says, no, here's my limit. But when you really truly push, you can get 10% more, 15% more out of yourself, right? And if we're not pushing ourselves, then I think we can start to grow backwards. It's called like dying. Yeah. I think that was a big deal. But there was something else I wanted to say. I forget what it was. But if you're going to do it, go for it. And no judgment. Like a lot of people who start don't finish. And you know what? Okay, great. But did you get one day in where you succeeded? Fantastic. Then that's one day out of your life that you are that much healthier for what you've done. And it's not about weight loss. It's very much about that mental game, being able to play the mental game with yourself, not with anybody else, not, whoever does it. I mean, I'm obviously very public because I do this sort of thing. So I could have easily done it in private. And the thing is that even with all the building up, so the next phase is called phase 1, and you do the exact same thing for 30 days, plus you add on a few other bells and whistles. And one of the bells and whistles is a cold shower for 5 minutes. And for me, a cold shower is like, it makes me feel like I want to have a heart attack. I don't know if you've ever had that experience. And so I am warming myself up to it. I'm onboarding it for January. And so like I'm doing like 2 minutes of pretty cold, but not freezing cold. So just trying to get myself acclimatized to it so that when I go into the 30 days for phase 1, if I choose to do that, I'll be ready. and it won't be such a shock to the system. I think starting from like 0 and going to 75 hard is, if you don't have already healthy eating habits, or yeah, I mean, you could just do it from where you are, like totally just push through. I think it was a lot easier for me because I was already ramping up to that kind of a lifestyle, is what I would say. Yeah. It's a lot of chatting. I haven't heard from anybody in the chat box, but that's okay. You know what? A lot of you, I actually got a text from a couple of our regulars saying that they were going to catch it on the replay. They weren't available. Anyway, all good. Super excited for you. Hey, speaking of lives and chat box, etc., I am going to change up the plan for my lives. I'm not going to do them every 4 days a week anymore. I'm going to do them on Mondays at 3:15. That might be a little bit longer, or I might go deeper into a topic. I don't know yet. And then on other days, if I have an interview that I want to do, we'll just put it into the week. And so you'll have to watch the agenda, and be sure you're following me and have the notifications turned on so that you can get access to those. And then anytime I finish one of the books on the list, I will also do a book review. So that might be once a week, that might be every other week, but it won't be 3:15. Just as, you know, my business is, you know, speaking is there, and a couple of times I've had to like put something up before I go on for a keynote, and it's like, you know what, I think I've done over 140 lives in the last not quite year, well, since April, and I feel like that's maybe enough, right? I don't know if people, I think it was really important when we were all locked down and through the summer, when people were a little bit more, you know, whatever. But I think one a week committed is a really good idea. So I will still do articles and posts and all of that. So I'll still be serving, but just not as many lives. And that's, who knows what the next chapter unfolds, but I have 1 day left in my 75 hard challenge, and I hope you will celebrate that with me. Oh, that's what I was going to say earlier. People ask me, how are you going to celebrate? And the funny thing is, when you get to the end of 75 hard, there's really no urge to go out and celebrate. It's not like I'm like desperate to go for nachos, although I'm going to go out on Saturday with some friends to the hockey game, and we're going to go to Joe Cool's, and I'm sure I'm going to have nachos then and a couple beers. But I'm not like, on Wednesday, I'm not waking up and like devouring everything that I didn't eat for the last 75 days, or, you know, going to sit on the couch. Like I suspect my life will remain fairly the same. So 1 or 2 workouts a day. The water will stay, the reading will stay, although, you know, I might not, like, if I'm not seeing where I can put it in my day, I might go back to more like reading in bigger stints, and then, I don't know. And food wise, I don't think I'm going to add in a lot of dairy into my life. I think that was a good decision to get rid of it. And eating whole foods is just a good decision. I don't need a lot of processed. So if I want something, I will, but yeah. Like, I think that's the cool part about it. It's more of a lifestyle than it is a thing that you do and then want to stop. Yeah. Anyway, I'm done. I hope you've had a beautiful day, and I can't wait to see you next Monday for our next live. So that'll be great. And then in the meantime, if you want to follow me to be sure you're getting all the articles and the posts and the other things that I'm doing, that would be really great and appreciated. And of course, next Monday, please come back and bring a friend with you. Let's help people become, happier. And my work is all about how do you stress less while doing more and ultimately being happier. So that is my hope for you. I will see you on Monday, and have a beautiful